This is We the People with Forrest Wilson.
We the people. We the people tell the government what to do. It doesn't tell us. We the people are the driver. The government is the car. And we decide where it should go and by what route and how fast.
Say, who's got trouble?
This is We the People with Forrest Wilson. And now, here is Forrest Wilson.
And good afternoon. Welcome to The Resistance with your citizen newsman, Forrest Wilson. Happy D-Day and happy Saturday. Thank you to all the service personnel, retired, currently serving, active duty. Thanks for your service. The lines are open, 904-222-TALK, 904-222-TALK. That's 8255, 904-222-8255. Last Saturday, I was on air when this news of this Sergeant Bo Bergdahl being released. And, you know, I hate to talk about it, but it is like front and center in the news. But I'm thinking at the time, 5 Guantanamo detainees for one soldier. I mean, this seems like we could have gotten a better deal. You know, I don't want to bargain with soldiers. I don't even want to imply it, but my next thought was, you know, this seems fitting for the commander-in-chief to get screwed in a deal. I mean, what does he know about deal-making? And apparently, we did get screwed. We restaffed the executive branch of the Taliban in exchange for what many are saying is a deserter. I mean, you would have thought that Chuck Hagel or somebody in the Obama administration would have checked into Bergdahl and found out about what this guy was really all about. You see, I think they knew. Oh, and they didn't bother to discuss it with our representatives. No, Congress was excluded. This was just the Obama inner circle and the Taliban. You know, I think that our president would rather negotiate with terrorists as to negotiate with representatives in our Congress. And some of the reporting from NBC News, one of 5 Taliban leaders freed from Guantanamo Bay in return for Sergeant Bo Bergdahl's release has pledged to return to fight Americans in Afghanistan, according to fellow militant and a relative. Well, I guess, you know, the militant would know, certainly the relative. After arriving in Qatar, Nurullah Nouri kept insisting he would go to Afghanistan and fight American forces there. A Taliban commander told NBC News via telephone from Afghanistan. So they're already in touch with the Taliban commander. One of his relatives said, but it was a miracle that Allah Almighty gave us Bergdahl and we got back our heroes. I mean, this is just, it can't get any worse for this administration. So apparently government officials in Qatar greeted this group of 5 Taliban commanders. Not only did they greet them, according to Fox News, they're putting them up with their family members in luxury villas. I mean, this Bergdahl character, he's coming home, and apparently there will be no hero's welcome. Obviously, there needs to be some sort of investigation and possible court-martial. I mean, if he was a deserter, what they did during World War II was they executed deserters by firing squad. So if he comes back and there's a preponderance of evidence that he deserted, I mean, members of his own troop are saying he walked off. He deserted them. And apparently at least 6 of our heroes were killed in the search and rescue operation. I mean, does this boggle your mind? Is this man, Barack Obama, losing the military? Our lines are open if you want to call in and talk about it. It's 904-222-TALK, 904-222-TALK. That's 904-222-8255. If you're concerned about calling in, well, I don't blame you. Remember, all of these calls are being recorded by the government. So Anyways, a Taliban commander said of the 5 jihadists released, it will take them some time to become normal and issue formal statements. Normal. I mean, what the hell is normal for these people? And apparently the only people happy with this trade are Obama, Susan Rice, Chuck Hagel, John Kerry, the Taliban, and radical Islamic jihadists everywhere. This is really the worst group of foreign policy nut jobs the U.S. has ever endured. It's an axis of idiots. And they go on and on about it in their own words. President Barack Obama's trade for Sergeant Bo Bergdahl now joins the infamous list of worst trades. Worst trades in history, according to Wayne Allen Root, author, entrepreneur, and former Libertarian vice presidential nominee. Wayne, good to have you on the program, brother.
Hey, Forrest, I'm just sitting here listening to your rant, your rampage, whatever you want to call it, and I got to say, I love you. You and I are simpatico, my friend. This is the axis of idiots combined with the axis of evil. Never forget that. These guys aren't idiots, actually. They are kind of stupid. They are kind of incompetent. Look at the Obamacare website. Look at the way Obama's carried out foreign policy. But at the same time, I think they're much more than idiots. I think they are communists and Muslim sympathizers. I'm not one of these guys who says Obama's a Muslim. I just think he sympathizes. I think that's clear. He sympathizes with Muslims. He sympathizes against Israel. He sympathizes with every enemy of America in the world. And he doesn't sympathize with every friend of America around the world. He doesn't believe in America's greatness or American exceptionalism. And he's done a great job of screwing up our image all around the world and proving that as bad as George Bush was sometimes, I'm not hateful of Bush, but I think he was a pretty lousy president all in all. But, George Bush's philosophy was people respect power. And Obama came along and said, oh, no, they don't. They hate us because of power. So he projects weakness and cowardice and kisses the butt of every person in the world that hates America. And look at what the result of that is. It's even worse.
It encourages these people to attack us. It really does.
Of course it does. Of course it does. Listen, I grew up in a very dangerous neighborhood on the Bronx borderline, a little town called Mount Vernon, New York. I was in one of the most dangerous urban schools in America, and I was a little Jewish kid with acne on my face, thick glasses, and braces. And so I was tortured 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I feared for my life going to school. I couldn't go to the bathroom the entire day because if you went in the bathroom, you'd get the crap beat out of you every single time. You'd be hurt, literally, for your lunch money. That's how I grew up going to school. And one day I realized I don't have to be like this, and the braces came off, and I got contact lenses, and the acne went away, and I lifted weights all summer, and I took boxing lessons, and the first guy who tried to pick on me, I literally threw through a glass plate window, and nobody ever touched me, not only for the rest of high school, for the rest of my life. I became a tough-talking, tough-acting guy, and when you project that, nobody in the world ever picks on you again. So I'm one of the few people, Forrest, who can say I was once the weak, skinny weakling that got sand kicked in his face and then became the bodybuilder and the boxing guy. And I know how it feels like to be both. And I know one thing. In life, you better be strong. I've never been mugged, I've never been robbed, and I've never been touched again since the day I projected strength. That's the only way to live life.
Well, you understand aggression, and I think our military understands aggression, but I don't think the current leadership really truly understands aggression and how to deal with it.
Or, I'm going to say something really scary here. Is it that, or they hate America? I think it's the latter. Remember, you may not even know that I graduated Columbia University as Barack Obama's classmate. Were you aware of that?
Yes, we had that discussion about 4 years ago.
Okay, 4 years ago. Long time.
I wound up in four audits, Wayne.
I graduated class of 83 with Obama, as I told you then, and I didn't know him, never met him, never heard of him, never saw him, which is scary in and of itself, because I think he's a Manchurian candidate. Something's wrong. But having said that, I knew every other kid at Columbia University. The only one I didn't know was Barack Obama went on to become president. Funny. Very strange. But all the other kids I knew, Forrest, were all proud to call themselves communists. I went to an entire school of red communists. Everybody there hated America. So to think that his entire administration is filled with his college classmates from both Columbia and Harvard, and all these kids growing up as 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds hated America, hated capitalism, hated American exceptionalism, hated Judeo-Christian values, And today they're running America, and you think all of this is a mistake or they're incompetent. I'm warning you, they are incompetent, but they're also incompetent communists. They believe in radical ideas that have nothing in common with you, me, the typical American, the typical patriot, and any of the founding fathers of America. Nothing in common with Barack Hussein Obama. Zero.
No, I'd agree. Listen, I grew when I was growing up, I moved to Barack Obama's neighborhood, which was allegedly Honolulu, Hawaii. I literally lived right down the street from the guy. Now, I never ran into him, but the thing that I really experienced in Hawaii was just incredible racism. This was 1980 in Honolulu, Hawaii, and it was probably one of the most racist places I've ever been outside of certain parts of the United States at that time.
And who was the racism against?
Against haoles, white people, mainlanders.
Right, exactly, against white Americans, exactly.
That's right.
Right. And so, your experience was kind of similar to mine growing up, where I grew up in an all-black town and an all-black high school, and I experienced true racism, and I experienced what it's like to be a minority. That's why I laugh. Black people have had it hard in America. Nobody debates that. But on the other hand, when a white person is in the minority in an all-black high school, trust me, the minority isn't fun no matter what color your skin is. It's just a natural tendency of society and life and race and culture and the world. Whoever's in the minority will have a very tough time. So I, as a white kid, going to an 85 or 86% black school, and most of the rest, by the way, was Hispanic, and none of it was Jewish. I was picked on incessantly and beaten incessantly and attacked incessantly. It's just a part of life. To be a minority is difficult. And when you were in Hawaii, white haoles were in the minority. It was it was a Hawaiian culture. So whoever's in the minority will always get picked on. It's a fact of life. In some ways, I thank them because it makes you stronger.
It does.
If you're smart and you don't use it as a crutch, it makes you into a much better, stronger person overall, long term.
Yeah, but the sick thing about it is politicians using race to divide us. Race, class, gender. Just about any group that you can group people in, they want to pit those groups against one another.
Right. Well, by the way, it's not politicians. It's Democratic politicians. I don't see any Republican politicians using race against anybody. I see Democratic politicians using race.
Oh, I do. There's some Republicans. I mean, you look at the invasion of the United States, and then you consider what Republicans like Jeb Bush have to say about it. This invasion, these people coming across our border, breaking our law, somehow this is an act of love. It's not a felony.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Republicans are using division. I mean, that's not a division. Actually, he's being embracing when he shouldn't be quite so embracing. You and I agree on that. I think it's insane to have a country that has a border where anybody can walk across. And it's insane to allow Democrats to lie and say you can't build a wall, or you shouldn't build a wall, or a wall doesn't work, or a wall's too expensive. Those are all lies, and the proof is that a much poorer, tinier country than us, Israel, had a massive terrorist problem, and they built a wall, and there is no more terrorist problem. It's gone. A wall works, and Israel proved it. You build a wall to keep Palestinian terrorists out, and suddenly there are no more terrorists in your country. So a wall absolutely works. And as far as it being expensive, first of all, Barack Obama doesn't mind, spending us into disaster. He spends more money than any president in history combined. He puts us in more debt than any president in history combined, more deficit than any president in history combined. We spent $3.7 trillion on the war on wealth, the war on poverty in the last 3 years, on entitlements. And so, of course, we can afford a wall. But what he's not telling you is, with the current technology we have, Obama knows how to use drones to do anything, in the Middle East or wherever he wants. You can control drones from where I live at Nellis Air Force Base in Las Vegas. They control all the drones of the world. So why can't we use high technology like drones to build a high-tech virtual wall protecting the United States border from Mexico, where you don't need to spend any money on extra border security guards, you don't need to spend any money on military, you don't need to spend any money on a real wall, you have a virtual wall. Nobody can get by a drone.
That's right. And why won't they do it? Because, who knows? I guess they're waiting for a terrorist attack, because I do believe that terrorists are looking in that southern border. Wayne, I got to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about the worst trades in history in your article on The Blaze.
You got it.
And you're with Forrest Wilson on The Resistance. 222-TALK, 222-TALK, 8255. I'm with Wayne Allen Root. We'll be right back.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
And we're back. Forrest Wilson with Wayne Allen Root, author, entrepreneur, former Libertarian vice presidential nominee. Wayne, I want to play a clip, and then I want you to comment on it, but I also want to hear about this worst trade. Okay, go ahead, Jack.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Zayabayem. I'm your father.
I am your father.
Okay, Jack, what'd you do to my clip? Anyways, that was Bob Bergdahl's dad, superimposed with Darth Vader, talking about welcoming his son back, but he did it in Arabic right there in the Rose Garden.
You want my comment on it?
What can you say? I mean, the guy looked like a Taliban commander.
It's bizarre. It's strange. I mean, when I've seen on the internet, and I'm assuming it's not an internet hoax, it looks to be real to me. It looks as if Bergdahl's dad's website is dedicated to Islam. I've seen the videos on his website. I mean, it's very strange stuff. I know it's a free country. I'm not against people being Muslims. I welcome everyone into America. Everything's great as long as you're peaceful. But it is a strange, strange thing. I mean, it sure seems like, from listening to testimony of Bergdahl, Bowie Bergdahl's fellow soldiers, he deserted, and he seemed to hate America. And now there are reports that have surfaced that show he declared jihad against America, and that he has forgotten how to speak English. That's one of the reasons he hasn't been released from a hospital in Germany, and the reason he hasn't been seen, because he doesn't speak English anymore. And he adopted Islam as his religion, and now it turns out his father, first words out of his mouth at a White House ceremony are in Arabic, and his website appears to be, allegedly appears to be dedicated to Islam. All of this is very strange. It sure leads to a picture of a guy that I wouldn't be swapping 5 mass murderers for. I wouldn't be in any rush to risk American lives to get this guy back. If he's so happy with the Taliban, let him live in happiness with the Taliban for the rest of his life.
Well, exactly, or at least until, if we can, end this war. You know, Barack Obama talks about ending this war, but the problem is that the other side makes no mention of it. In other words, it's a holy jihad. It's generational. When I went to work for CIA in 1989, our very first briefing was on the rise of Islamic fundamentalism. And to this day, I know for a fact these people will never give up. They're like Democrats in the progressive left. There's no end to the battle. On one of Bergdahl's tweets, this is Bob Bergdahl, the dad, and this came out in the Washington Post, and then they pulled the tweet down, but he says, "I'm still working to free all Guantanamo prisoners. God will repay for the death of every Afghan child. Amen."
I mean, it's just bizarre, and it's unsettling, and it's just not what you'd ever imagine is normal behavior. You know what I said to someone the other day, a liberal who wanted to debate me on this, what's wrong with him talking in Arabic, and I said, can you even imagine in World War II, after an American parent's child was released from a Nazi prison, he walked up to the podium and started talking in German? That's the first thing he'd do?
Yeah, in the Rose Garden.
Can you imagine if a guy whose son was killed at Pearl Harbor, the first thing he'd do is start talking in Japanese? Isn't that strange behavior that makes people nervous? Something's wrong here?
Well, we are at war, and it makes me very nervous. Janet Napolitano was absolutely determined to convince America that some of these people returning from the Middle East might be radicalized. I mean, is it possible this guy's whole family's radicalized?
Well, is it possible that the President of the United States is ruining America from within the White House? Speaking of radicalized, I said this for 6 years, that all my classmates at Columbia hated America, and one of them is now in the White House. Isn't anybody worried? And now it's been 6 years later. Some people might have said, Wayne is crazy or extreme or exaggerating 6 years ago, but I knew what I'd gone to school with, and I knew how these people thought. And I said, we're in big trouble. And now, and by the way, I also was basing it on Barack Obama's record as a U.S. Senator. Out of 100 senators, the most extreme left out of all 100. Doesn't that make people nervous? But they ignored it and they elected him president. And now he's gone out in 6 years and he's proven me right. Look at the facts. Everything he does on a daily basis is destructive to the American economy. And for those listening right now who disagree, how do you argue with facts? I don't know if you know, Forrest, I have a new book coming out July 19th. It's called The Murder of the Middle Class.
Yes, I'm looking forward.
Yeah, and I identify the conspirators who have ruined America and who are killing the middle class purposely because they want to create a two-class society. All communist countries have two classes: the super rich and connected elite people who are part of the, Politburo and part of the ruling communist class, and everybody else is poor and dependent on government. And that's what Barack Obama is trying to create right now: another Cuba, another Venezuela, a two-class society, and the middle class has to go. It doesn't work. They're too patriotic, and they don't get bought off so easily, and they're not into, dependency, and so you've got to get rid of them and make them poor. That's what's happening. And for those who think I'm wrong, let me just read you for just a couple of statistics that show what I'm talking about is happening. For the first time in history, America's middle class isn't number one in the world. Canada is now the number one middle class in the world. And by the way, in the top 20, they're all right on top of us. So if we keep dropping for the last 2 years of Obama's administration, we might soon find ourselves number 10 in the world when we've been number one in history. Throughout modern history, there's never been a day until Obama became president we weren't the number one middle class. This year, based on certain criteria, specific criteria, mainly consumer spending, China will pass America as the world's number one economy. That's the first time since 1872 America isn't the number one economy in the world. For the first time in history in America, businesses are closing faster than they're opening. That's never happened in history. Just under 60% of Americans now believe the American dream is dead. And it's no wonder, because half the workers in America now make less than $27,000 a year. And adjusted for inflation, the average full-time male employee in America now earns less than 40 years ago. 20% of U.S. families don't have a single member in their whole household who's employed. I mean, are these not mind-blowing statistics of a nation fast becoming another Cuba, another Venezuela? The middle class is marked for extinction by many people. It's a big conspiracy, and big business is part of it too, and the lobbyists are part of it, and the communists are part of it, but the number one guy leading it is Barack Obama, and that's why I wrote The Murder of the Middle Class.
You're listening to Forrest Wilson. I've got Wayne Allen Root. Wayne, I want to keep you on for one more segment.
Sure, we'll finally get to the reason I came on, right?
Yes. AM 600 WBOB, The Answer. You're listening to The Resistance. Forrest Wilson, I'll be right back. We're back with Forrest Wilson on The Resistance, and I'm talking to Wayne Allen Root, author, entrepreneur, and former Libertarian vice presidential nominee. I just want to add one statistic to those numbers you threw out just before the break, Wayne. 33 states, welfare pays more than an $8 an hour job. Look, I believe we're a bunch of socialists already with crony capitalism at the top. It won't be hard to convert us to communism.
No, I mean, what are the tenets of communism? I had this debate with Larry King. I was on the air the other day with the famous Larry King. He's got a web TV show nowadays, and they invited me to fly to L.A. and appear on it, and he said, "You think Obama's a communist? You're out of your mind." And I said, "I'm out of my mind. Every tenet of communism is where this country is headed under Barack Obama. Number one is what you just said, Forrest, which is, entitlements, paying you more than working. Well, of course that's communism, dependence on government. Number two is an obsession with income redistribution. Number three is regulations. If you regulate people to death, it doesn't matter if government actually owns the business. Government is in control of the business. So Obama has found a very unique and interesting and brilliant way to have government in control of everyone in America without ever actually having government take over. You just regulate people to death, and 4 of the 5 highest regulation years in the history of America are under Barack Obama.
Oh, listen, you and me right now are breaking a federal regulation somewhere. There's over 1 million of them. There's no way to know if you're in compliance.
And how about here's the last one. I just saw this morning on Drudge Report. A gun shop, I'm not sure where it was, in either Massachusetts, somewhere in the Northeast. Oh, New Hampshire. Here it is, in Hooksett, New Hampshire. Shooter's Outpost, a gun shop, just got a notice in the mail of non-renewal of insurance because they are in a business. It literally said on the non-renewal notice, "We're canceling your insurance because you're in a business we do not want to be involved with, gun shops." And this is a new policy of the Obama administration. They have informed banks, as an example, not to keep accounts and merchant accounts, not to keep Visa, MasterCard merchant accounts for certain businesses that are now being blackballed, like gun owners, gun shops, in other words, people involved in the gun business, people involved in the telemarketing business, people involved in pornography. I'm not going to stand here and defend pornography, and yet last I checked, America's a free country, and if they come for the pornographers, I think they're coming for you and me next.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing.
Them and the pot growers, the legal pot growers, the banks don't want to do business with them.
Even though it's legal in those states, correct. So my argument is government, this is communism, because government telling businesses who you can cover and who you can't, nicely suggesting it to a bank, but then using the stick and saying, if you don't follow our rules, we'll just bring in regulators and take your bank down and destroy your ability to do business. So, again, it's not exactly communism, but it's so smart. It's a brilliant way to take control of the entire country and not allow it to be called communism, when in reality it's absolutely communism.
Yes, they've definitely put a strain on the engine of prosperity. Well, we got to talk about the worst trades in history and this Bergdahl deal. These 5 commanders, what do you know about them?
Well, I mean, listen, I know Barack Obama had an obsession with him. That's the strange thing. That wasn't even part of my article, because I only found out in the last day or two that Obama actually went to Congress twice, to ask to release these same 5 specific terrorists. I never knew that. So he was desperate to get these 5 gigantic, high-profile leaders back to their people. Doesn't that seem strange to you? And then when he was turned down twice by Congress, and they passed a specific law to make sure he never did that, and he had to notify them, give them 30 days notice. He went around it, never did it, and made sure they were part of this trade. I only found that out in the last 24 hours. Don't you find that incredibly interesting? It's almost as if somebody from the Taliban is giving orders to the President of the United States who we should let out of prison. It's the most incredible thing I've ever seen.
Well,
is George Soros giving orders to the President? Are we now, do we have terrorists in charge of the White House? It's mind-blowing.
Now, here's where the Republicans come in. What are they going to do about it?
I'll bet you nothing. They'll say what the South Carolina Senator, Lindsey Graham, said the other day. If you ever do something like this again, we'll begin impeachment hearings. What about what he just did? Is that what policemen say to criminals when they catch you robbing at gunpoint a 7-Eleven? Do they say, if we ever catch you a second time, we're definitely going to put you in prison. So now get out of here, kid. It's okay. You're free.
Yeah, no, you'll be doing a perp walk. Well, and this is my problem with the Republican Party, because in many ways, when you know of a crime, when you crafted the legislation and you see the guy commit the crime and you do nothing, you are what? Complicit.
You're an accessory in a way.
You're complicit.
Right. Exactly. And so, anyway, I didn't know any of that at the time, that he had this desperate need for 2 years now to get the same 5 guys released. Why would you want to release, it's like releasing the 5 biggest underlings of Adolf Hitler. Would you be in a rush to get them out of jail when they were Hitler's best friends? Well, these are the 5 biggest terrorists in the world. They were the underlings of Osama bin Laden. Why would Obama have a desperate need to let them go? Why wouldn't, of all the criminals we hold at Gitmo, these should be the 5 you never let go? They should be given the death penalty or kept in prison for life. But certainly it's strange that the president needs to let them out and find an excuse, and finally does use this as an excuse to trade for a deserter. So anyway, I didn't know that back then when I wrote this column 3 or 4 days ago. I wrote Obama makes the worst trade since the American Indians sold Manhattan for $24. I always thought that was the worst trade in history. In the sports world, I always thought the curse of the Bambino was the worst trade. The Yankees got Babe Ruth for just a penny or two from the Red Sox, and the Red Sox never won another World Series for 86 years. So those, to me, were always famous as the worst trades ever. I think this one now takes the cake. We traded for a traitor, and in return we gave away 5 of the most valuable, criminals the United States has ever caught. I don't know why anybody would make that trade. I asked the question many times. It's now a fact. We knew exactly where this POW was. We had eyes on him. So why didn't we just raid it and never have to give up the 5 mass murderers? Why didn't we just do a Special Forces raid? And then I got the answer to that. Special Forces refused to send their men in and get a traitor. They would not risk a life for a man who was a traitor to America. So Barack Obama had no choice. If he desperately wanted to get the man back, he had to arrange a trade. Well, I think it's the other way around, Forrest. I think he desperately wanted to get the 5 guys handed back to the Taliban, so he found a convenient excuse to swap them.
Yeah, and apparently now they're saying, well, his health was deteriorating.
Another lie.
Bergdahl.
Another lie.
Yeah.
Well, first they said the health deteriorating, then they said his life is in danger, he's going to be immediately executed. And each time the lie was proven and unearthed, they changed to a new story. It's like in the last 72 hours, the story's changed like 4 times. This is Obama with, his belief is, Saul Alinsky said the ends justify the means. Any lie is okay if you could turn America into a communist country. And this guy lies with impunity. If you don't believe me, just go back to, I can name you 50 lies, but just go back to one. If you like your insurance, you can keep it.
Yeah, I'm about to lose mine.
Yeah, everybody is. The whole country is literally about to lose their insurance, and somehow, they just walk on TV and continue to lie and say, isn't this fantastic? Obamacare actually works because 7 million people signed up by March 31st. They didn't tell you that almost none of them paid. They didn't tell you that probably half of them had insurance just fine before Obamacare came along, and he ruined it for them. They got canceled. They had no choice but to sign up with Obamacare. It's like saying I broke a shopkeeper's window, and he fixed it, and he paid me to fix it. Aren't I a good businessman? You're the one that broke it, man.
Well, if you look at this stuff long enough, it can really be depressing because you do come to that conclusion. Our government is against the people.
There's some rays of hope out there for us. I wrote The Murder of the Middle Class. It comes out July 14th. It's probably 2/3 facts that prove we're in major trouble and the country's going under and the country's becoming socialist. But it's 1/3 fantastic news how you can personally do okay and save yourself. And there's a lot of things you can do to help either A, turn this around on the national level, or B, save yourself as an individual. That would take a whole other interview, and I hope you and I will do one later this summer. But there is good news out there. Trust me, you can survive this. You don't have to be one of the middle class that becomes a member of the poor dependent class. You can still do well while this is going on.
Well, I'm going to get a copy of that book from you, The Murder of the Middle Class. I want to go to the 2 reasons for the trade. You talk about the VA, getting the VA scandal out of the headlines. I think that was kind of obvious.
Yeah, it's clear he had to do something to kill that narrative. And that's, why would Obama have done this, people ask. My answer was A, to get the VA out of the headlines. He was desperate to get that idea out of the way. And by the way, what better way to solve an image of you being anti-military and being negligent towards veterans than to go rescue a military veteran, right? So it was the perfect scenario in his mind and his PR guy's mind to get it out of the headlines. And number 2, word was out. The CIA had put word out to Obama, classified documents that indicate Bowie Bergdahl had turned, and he was literally a friend of the Taliban and was going to give a press conference, a global TV press conference in Arabic, announcing that we're the evil people, we're the bad guys, and America is the evil empire, and that he's become one of them. And Obama could not allow that narrative and needed to grab him before he did that. So for all of those reasons, I felt he made this trade. I think in the last 24 hours, I've heard things that make me believe there's a third possible option, and that is for some reason, this guy, Barack Obama, wanted those 5 people to be handed over for 2 years now. And he desperately was trying to find an opening to do it and bypass Congress, and he finally did. So I never would have imagined that one. Even I couldn't go that far and make that connection. Is our own president some sort of a traitor? I don't know. I'm not even saying it. I'm asking a question out loud, folks. Don't tell me I said it. I'm asking a question. It sure smells rotten and seems suspicious to me.
Well, there's a lot that smells rotten about this trade. Wayne Allyn Root, I want to thank you for coming on today. I look forward to your book. If you want to call in, it's 904-222-TALK, 222-TALK. That's 8255. AM 600, WBOB, The Answer. You're on with Forrest Wilson and the Resistance. Thank you, Wayne Allyn Root.
Thanks, Forrest. God bless.
Let's return to We the People with Forrest Wilson. Once again, here's Forrest.
And we're back. We're listening to The Resistance, Forrest Wilson. And yes, I keep saying we're already socialists. I believe we are. I do believe there's light at the end of the tunnel. There are a lot of things that we can do. One of the things that we've got to do is speak to one another. We must reach out to our friends, neighbors, and associates. That's the only way that we're going to get out of this crap that this government keeps shoveling at us. And while the administration subverts our military, they're cutting it, demoralizing it, and exposing military personnel to danger along with the rest of us. Look, we don't have capitalism anymore. We've got socialism. We don't have security anymore. We've got insecurity. We don't have a healthcare system anymore. We've got a centrally planned healthcare system that they can't even develop a budget for, with a website that just doesn't work. You know, they can't even figure out the gender identity of some of the enrollees, people that are enrolling for this crap. Did you hear about the case of college student Shelby Higdon, who under Obamacare was refused medication? Have you heard about this? Jack, you got clip 6?
And then when it was time to get my medicine, they told me that they couldn't give it to me because on my insurance I was registered as a man.
On my insurance, I was registered as a man. I don't know if you could tell, but Ms. Higdon is a woman. I mean, really, with the complete focus by this administration on gender identity, race, and on, they can't figure out the gender of an Obamacare enrollee. Under Obamacare, Higdon was refused medicine because of a gender mix-up, which, according to Higdon, could not be fixed due to bureaucratic red tape. Red tape. I mean, this is more of these insane regulations. I'm sure somewhere in there, once the enrollee has signed a form, even if they check the wrong box, it can't be changed. But, you know, this is Obamacare. They can't figure out Higdon is a woman. Do you think they can figure out if Bergdahl's a traitor? What's that going to do to the military? If they bring this guy back and all of this is simply swept under the rug, or they determine that he's not a deserter when his own troop said he was a deserter. I mean, you just got to ask yourself, are these fools stupid? You know, God help America. God help America.